Living in alignment. What is living in alignment? Welcome to Sanctum, the conscious I life. What is missing? What is missing? What if there is nothing missing? What if what is missing is the end of a chapter and the beginning of a new chapter? Welcome to this episode of Sanctum, the conscious I life. What is missing? This is episode 3, and I will be talking about living in alignment. What is living in alignment? Well, to live in alignment is to live in accordance with our value. Sometimes this is called value-led, value-driven living, and is to understand what our values. Our values are the things that we deeply care about in our life. Yes, this could be joy, this could be wealth, this could be love, this could be compassion, this could be kindness, this could be perfection, this could be precision, this could be strategy. Whatever you value in your life, this is what makes you unique. This is what makes you who you are. And your value system is what allows you to live in alignment. Because if you don't have a value system, if you don't know what your values are, then it's very difficult to live in alignment with them. It's like if you don't know where you're going, then it's difficult to drive to a destination that you don't know. Yeah. But if you know where you're going, you get in a car or you get a car and you drive to where you're going because you know from A to B, this is where you're going. But if you don't know where you're going, you might just keep driving in different direction. Again, that is not wrong sometimes, but really in order to live a deeply meaningful life, this is why people talk about living in alignment is to live according to one's values. What are your values? What do you value the most at this stage of your life or just in general in life? Some people have a core value that stays with them all their life, and some people's values change at different stages of their life. For example, you might value something different when you were younger. Maybe freedom was one of your top values when you were younger, the freedom to explore, the freedom to travel, the freedom to try different things. But as you grow older, that value might be one of the least important ones. Maybe stability is something you value more. Relationships is something you value more. Wealth is something you value more. Kindness is something you value more. So in order to live in alignment with what is deeply meaningful to you, what you deeply care about, and usually to a life that you deeply love, the first thing is to know what you deeply value. This is something that I work with people on in a one-on-one capacity to identify what are your values at this stage of your life? What do you deeply care about? What do you deeply value? What gives your life meaning? Because to each and every one of us, what gives our life meaning is going to be different. What we value is going to be different. What we care about is going to be different. We're all very unique individuals, and what you value and what I value are very different. And this will determine how we live in alignment. For example, if I value kindness, and this is one of my value system, this is what drives me to live the way that I live. And I realize that I did something that wasn't kind, then I can come back into alignment by remembering to be kind on a regular basis. I know it sounds very simplistic, but this is how we actually live in alignment with our values. Living in alignment simply means living according to your values, living according to those things that really deeply are meaningful for you, that have an impact on you, that you deeply care about, that you actually really would do everything to make sure that you live according to those values. It is very important, especially as individuals, to have a value system. This is like our own individual unique code of ethics and morals. Our values is what keeps us in alignment with who we know we are. And when we are not living in alignment with those, then we can simply come back into alignment and look at what actually brought you out of alignment. This is also something that is very important, because when you know your value system, when you know your values, and for whatever reason you're not living in alignment with them, then you can look at why are you not living in alignment with them. Sometimes it could be the environment, sometimes it could be a particular life situation. Maybe all of a sudden there's so much more going on in your life and it's difficult or it's challenging to live in alignment with a particular value. And this might be you looking at it and going, okay, what do I need to support myself so that I can live in alignment with my values? So to live in alignment with one value is to live according to the things that you deeply care about, to the things that are deeply meaningful for you. This is how one begins to live a meaningful life. Because when you look at life, life is very random. There's many things happening. There's many things people are interested in. We all have different hobbies and different passion and different things that we care about. But when we know what, as an individual, we deeply care about, what do you deeply care about? What moves you? What compels you to expand, to elevate, to grow? What compels you to live the best life that you know is available to you in every moment? What compels you to wake up every day and be the person you are? This is living a value-based system. This is living a life that is in alignment with who you know yourself to be. And in order to live in alignment, the first thing, like I said, is knowing your values and deeply getting to know what you care about. By knowing what you care about, by knowing what you deeply connect to, then you can begin to identify your value. This is something that I love working one-on-one with my client, to really go, okay, at this stage of your life, what do you deeply value? What do you deeply care about? Because at the end of the day, it's your life. And if you live it in a way that is meaningful to you, that has an impact for you in the right sort of impact that you would love, then this is living in alignment. And when you're not living, when it's not having the impact in your life that you would love, then you're living out of alignment and it's simply coming back. And living in alignment doesn't mean you're going to be living in alignment all the time. Sometimes we come out of alignment. This is just life. This is the truth. And it's to be able to come back into alignment. Yes. For example, if a politician that their value system is to always speak from truth and kindness, and for whatever reason, they spoke from a place of not being kind and actually maybe really doing something that is against their value, then they can simply apologize and come back to their value system and identify what actually caused for them to go out of alignment, to act in a way, to behave in a way that was away from their value system. And that would actually help them to know for next time to prevent that from happening. So when we live in alignment with our values, is a way of living a deeply meaningful life, is a way of living to a life that we deeply care about, is a way of living an impact in the world that we actually are intentionally living. Living in alignment is an intentional way of living, because every day we know what we care about, we know what we value, and we choose intentionally to live from this place. If you value kindness, then every day you choose intentionally to live from kindness. Yeah. Somebody else might value something else. It doesn't mean they're not kind. It just means that that is not something that they deeply value. Maybe what they deeply value more is love. And so every day they live from love. And again, our values is not just one area of life. It could be different things that we value. We may value kindness, we may value love, we may value wealth. Whatever it is that you value, it is important to live in alignment, to live in accordance with this value system. And that is when life has a deeper meaning. That is when we feel connected to ourselves, to the things that we care about. That is when we actually make the impact that we choose to make in the world. Yeah, when you know your value system, it actually, this is really, really important. When you know your value system and you live in alignment, it actually means that you are making consciously the impact that you choose to make on the world. Yeah. When you make that impact from a place of intention because you're living in alignment with your values, then you'll be seeing the result that you're expecting in the world. But if you don't know your value system, if you're not living in alignment, then you're not going to be seeing the result. Result might be happening, but it might not be the result you actually care about to see in the world. So in order to live in alignment, it is important to, first of all, what is your value? What do you value? What are your values? What do you deeply care about? And if it's something that you've not thought about before, if it's something that is not something that you've looked deeply into, this might be an opportunity to actually look into it. Or maybe you already have your value system. Maybe it's time to review your value system and update it. Do you still care about some of those things that you thought you care about? Do you still deeply value them? Are they in alignment with who you know yourself to be now? Because over different stages of our life, we value different things. Maybe perhaps now you value more free time, you value more space, you value more connection, you value more depth, or maybe you just value more money. Maybe you value traveling more. Maybe you value being connected to your family in a different way. Maybe you value your legacy, what you're leaving in the world, not just when you leave, but actually every day of your life, because legacy is not just what you leave when you're gone, but it's also what you're leaving every single time you connect with others in the world. Yeah, every single time. So living in alignment is simply living in accordance with our value system. And our values actually allows us to know who we are in this particular phase of our life, who we are, what we care about, and what impact we choose to make, to have in the world. Yes, our values allows us to know who we are, what impact we choose to have in the world, to make in the world. This is what living in alignment gives us. To live in alignment is to live according to who you know yourself to be. To live in alignment is to live intentionally according to your values, to what you really care about, what you deeply care about. To live in alignment is to know when you're not living in alignment. Because if you don't know your values, then you don't know if you're living in alignment or you're not living in alignment. But when you know your values, you know when you're living in alignment, and you know when you're living out of alignment. And you can just simply choose to come back into alignment. So to live in alignment is to live a meaningful life intentionally, to intentionally live a meaningful life. So If this is the first time that this is coming into your field as a thought, as a conversation, perhaps just take a minute or two and see, what are your values? And if you're already living your values, perhaps take some time, a minute or two, to look at your values. Do your values now still deeply resonate with you? Are these the values you choose to keep living intentionally? Or would you like to change some of them? And sometimes it might take a bit of investigation and a collaboration, a partnership, working with somebody else to really understand what your values are. This is the work I do in my holistic bespoke advisory, where I work exclusively in a private one-to-one capacity with select clientele. We work together to understand what are your values, what do you deeply care about, so that you can begin to live in alignment. And if you already have your values, if you're already living a value-driven, value-led life, and you are sensing that your values are changing, you are deeply caring about other things, there are other things in your life that are emerging, whether that's being a philanthropist, whether that's starting a new business, whether that's moving to a new place, something deeply is emerging for you, and you know that this is changing your value system, then this is something that I work with you on. If you would like to work with me, you can go to my website at www.queenoluwatobiloba1.com. I work only by invitation or referral. And if that's something that you're interested in, then please go to my website and send an invitation. I don't respond to everyone, but if it's the right fit and I have the capacity for it, then I would love to co-create and collaborate with you on this journey. But really, take a moment, look at your values. Are you living in alignment with who you know yourself to be, with what you deeply care about, with the impact you would love to leave in the world? And when I say the impact you would love to leave in the world, the impact that you're leaving every day. If your value is kindness, are you being kind to people? If your value is to live from a place of empowerment, are you empowering yourself and empowering others? If your value is to live from a place of compassion, are you being compassionate to yourself and to others? Because it's not just about living our values, living in alignment, but also living in alignment in a way that is impactful to us and to the world around us. So it's been lovely to speak on this episode with you today. And as I always say, take a moment. Don't let this be just a conversation or something you listen to, but let it be something that deeply moves you to actually go, you know what? I am going to live in alignment with my values. What are my values? What do I deeply care about? And it might not even be your values. You might look at your company values. What is your company value? Is your company living in accordance with those values? Or is it just something that's become static? Something that's been written, but it's been forgotten? Yeah, again, this is what can happen with our values, is really looking at it. As our values become static, do we even remember them? Because in order to live in alignment, you must remember your values. And if you don't remember your values, then you're not living in alignment consciously, intentionally. So the thing is to look at your values again and to go, oh, I am living in alignment. My company is working, serving, providing services in alignment with these values. I am living in alignment with who I am intentionally meaning to be. Yeah, I am living a meaningful life. It's been such a pleasure to speak on this episode. I look forward to seeing you in the next episode. My name is Oluwatobiloba. I am simply known as Iya, and I am the founder of queenoluwatobiloba1.com, a bespoke holistic advisory. where I work one-on-one in a private container with a select clientele. Have a lovely day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you on the next episode.